Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're traveling far back in time, to the age of the Hung Kings, the legendary founders of the Vietnamese nation, to hear one of the most famous and meaningful legends in all of Vietnam, Tinh and Thuy Tinh. This is not just a story about a royal marriage contest. It's also an ancient way our ancestors explained the forces of nature, the struggle between land and water, and the eternal resilience of humankind. Long ago, in the peaceful kingdom of Van Lang, fields were fertile, the people lived in harmony, and the land was ruled by King Hung XVIII. The king was old and had only one daughter, Mi Nuong, whose beauty was like the moonlight and whose kindness was as gentle as a flowing river. King Hung loved his daughter dearly and wanted to find her a worthy husband, someone not only talented and virtuous, but also capable of helping the nation prosper. So the king sent out a royal proclamation. All men of talent and virtue come forth. Whoever proves himself most deserving shall become the husband of Princess Mi Nuong. When the day of the contest arrived, the royal court was packed. From mountains, rivers, and faraway lands, men of all skills and powers came to present themselves. Among them, two stood out far above the rest: Tinh, the lord of the mountains, and Thuy Tinh, the lord of the waters. Tinh was strong and calm. Wherever he went, trees sprouted and flowers bloomed. He could move mountains and raise the land with his divine staff. Thuy Tinh, in contrast, carried the majesty of the ocean. With a wave of his hand, he could summon storms, command rain, and make rivers overflow. Both were extraordinary beings, and King Hung could not decide between them. Finally, the king declared, "You are both worthy, but my daughter can marry only one. Whoever brings the betrothal gifts first shall become my son-in-law." The gifts required were 100 trays of sticky rice, 100 rounds of chung cakes, 1 pair of 9-tusked elephants, 1 pair of 9-spurred cocks, and 1 pair of 9-maned horses. The two suitors immediately set out to find these treasures. At dawn the next morning, as mist still covered the valleys, Tinh returned first. Thanks to his control over the mountains and forests, he gathered all the required gifts within a single night. King Hung was delighted. He kept his word and married Mi Nuong to Tinh at once. The wedding was grand, filled with joy and music. But just as the bridal procession made its way toward the Tan Vian mountain, Thuy Tinh arrived, only to discover that he was too late. When Thuy Tinh saw that Mi Nuong had already become another man's wife, rage flared in his eyes. His voice thundered across the land. "How dare you give her away? I was late by only a moment, yet I have lost the one I love." No one dared to answer. King Hung stood silently, helpless. Tinh had already taken Mi Nuong far into the mountains. Furious, Thuy Tinh raised his hands to the sky and unleashed his wrath. Storms raged, rain poured. The rivers swelled and flooded the land. It was the beginning of the greatest battle between mountain and sea. As the waters rose higher and higher, Tinh stood firm. He lifted his staff and summoned the earth to rise. Hills grew taller, mountains climbed higher, and dikes formed along the rivers. Whenever the water climbed, the mountains rose to match it. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, and waves crashed against the cliffs. Villages were swallowed by floods, and the people of Van Lang fled toward higher ground. Seeing their suffering, Tinh used his magic to shield them. He built barriers, guided rivers away from homes, and taught the people to build stilt houses on hillsides. For days and nights, the battle raged on. Rain never stopped, and the rivers refused to calm. But in the end, Thuy Tinh grew weary. His strength waned, and the water slowly receded. When the skies finally cleared, Tinh raised his staff once more, and the land returned to peace. Defeated, Thuy Tinh withdrew to the depths of the sea. But before leaving, he shouted in fury, "I will never give up. Every year I shall raise my waters and strike again." And so, from that day on, every rainy season, when rivers overflow and floods come, people say, Thuy Tinh is attacking Sun Tinh once more. To the ancient Vietnamese, this legend was more than just a tale of gods. It was a reflection of life itself, a symbolic story of humanity's eternal struggle with nature. Sun Tinh represents the mountains and the solid earth, the home of humankind, where we plant, build, and live. Thuy Tinh represents water, the source of life, but also a force of destruction when uncontrolled. Their never-ending battle mirrors the cycle of nature: rain and drought, rise and fall, creation and destruction. But within that cycle lies a deeper truth. Humans cannot fight against nature, but we can learn to live in harmony with it. Thanks to the spirit of Sun Tinh, resilience, wisdom, and creativity, the Vietnamese people learned to tame the floods, building dikes, crafting terraces, and reclaiming land from rivers and seas. Thus, Tinh and Thuy Tinh is not merely a myth about gods. It is a symbol of the Vietnamese spirit, one that stands tall, adapts, and rises after every disaster. Over thousands of years, the legend has lived on, told through lullabies, paintings, and festivals. Even today, the people believe that Sun Tinh still guards over the Tan Vien Mountains. His temple stands proudly in Ba Vi, and he is worshipped as one of Vietnam's 4 immortals, the divine protectors of the nation. And though Thuy Tinh was defeated, he too is remembered, not as a villain, but as a reminder of the sea's power and the need to respect nature's might. Every year when floods rise and storms come, people smile and say, "Ah, Thuy Tinh is trying to claim Mi Nuong again." A simple phrase, yet it carries generations of memory and wisdom, teaching that floods and storms are part of life, and that humanity's duty is to endure and rebuild. The story of Sun Tinh and Thuy Tinh is not just an ancient legend. It is the living heart of Vietnamese identity, the courage to face disaster, the strength to rise again, and the love that binds humanity with nature. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. More myths, legends, and folktales from Vietnam and across Asia are waiting for you. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next story.